Week 3, stats report. Welcome to Talking Giants. My name is Justin Penik, and the Giants are 0-3. With the investments that they've made in the draft in this roster, and especially free agency, the money that they've gone out and spent, to be 0-3, I never would have thought that we would be here. And it's a failure on all levels. And the way that I want to do this stats report video today, it's a little bit different than usual. Like, usually I'm always talking about the offense and throwing the ball and Daniel Jones and explosive plays. We'll talk about that briefly. But everybody knows now. We're 19 games in, and I'm so glad we're all finally on that same page and the same consensus that Jason Garrett is one of the main culprits as to why this offense isn't scoring points. And when you don't score points in an offensive league, you're not going to win. You're not going to win games. I'm glad everybody knows. I don't need to sit here and explain to you why it's unacceptable that Daniel Jones only took 2 passes and 2 passing attempts of 20-plus yards. None of them went to Kenny Golladay. One of them went to C.J. Board and Colin Johnson. I don't need to sit here and explain that to you. You know it. And I'm glad that everybody that's watched this and we're getting it, and the Giants aren't. So that's one of the reasons why they're 0-3, and it's why we are in the spot that we're in. So I want to do this stats report video a little bit differently, and I want to talk about the schedule first, because everybody knows the schedule is tough from here on out, and according to the Football Power Index, here's how easy the first 3 games were, and then here's how tough the rest of it is. So Football Power Index, Giants have played the 4th easiest schedule in the game of football so far this season, and then from here on out, they have the hardest schedule in the National Football League, at least as of right now. So, what Football Power Index is, by the way, is take the Giants, for example. The Giants, if they were to play an average level team at a neutral site, they would be minus 3 points underdogs. So 3-point underdogs. That's what Football Power Index is saying, and that's what that metric is. So they've said Giants have had the 4th easiest schedule, and then from here on out, they have the hardest schedule. And just from a fan standpoint, we've never gotten off to good starts. I mean, and even outside of 2016, that's the exception, obviously. Basically, since we won the Super Bowl, the Giants are just never a team that gets off to good starts. Never. And my selfish ask this year was to be relevant and playing relevant football in the month of November. We're not even going to make it to October. We're not even going to make it to October to have relevant Giants football unless they go on some sort of massive win streak, and it's going to be tough to do when they have such a tough schedule. And also, looking at the teams that they've already played, why it was so important that they get off to a fast start is because you wanted to give yourself a margin of error. Even 2-1. Even 2-1 would have been totally fine in my book. Giants, it's week 3 and we're over 500, right? But similar to the way the offense operates, and now even a little bit the defense, but I'm definitely putting most of the blame on the offense, there's just no margin of error. You can't afford a holding call. You can't afford a drop pass. You can't afford to turn over the ball. Every Daniel Jones, Evan Ingram turnover is the end of the world, because you don't know the next time the offense is going to start driving and putting points on the board. A dropped interception by Adoree Jackson and 2 by Logan Ryan, it's the end of the world, because that was the opportunity that you could have given the offense to put points on the board. There's no margin of error on this team, and the Giants, starting 0-3, gave themselves 0 margin of error start this year. So that's schedule talk. So I want to do things a little bit differently this episode, and I kind of want to start off with looking at Joe Judge's 4th down decision-making and how it's impacted the team and how it could have impacted, the difference between winning and the difference between losing. So Joe Judge this past Sunday, as a reasoning for not going for it on a 4th and 3 from the Atlanta 39-yard line, his reasoning was, well, we wanted to play the field position game. We wanted to win the field position battle. And this is when the Giants were losing 7-6. It was a 4th and 3 from the Atlanta 39-yard line. So his reasoning was we wanted to win the field position battle. Well, this past weekend, out of all teams in the National Football League, out of all teams, the New York Football Giants had the worst average starting field position in the league. And the Falcons had one of the best. They were in the top quarter in the National Football League in best starting field position. So you didn't win that battle, Joe. You didn't exactly win that battle, because they actually punted on that 4th and 3. They punted from the Atlanta 39-yard line when the offense was actually moving the ball. They weren't putting up points, but again, a common theme of this stupid offense is that they moved the ball in 2021. Last year, they didn't even do that. Last year, they didn't even move the ball well. But at least they're moving the ball well this year, but they're still not scoring points. So Judge punts the ball, and 2-3 plays later, the Falcons are back on the 39-yard line anyway. They're back on the 30-yard line. So punting there accomplished nothing. You wanted to pin the Falcons down inside the 5-yard line, which they did. You wanted to pin them down inside the 5-yard line. You trust your defense to get the 3 and out. So then your offense would get the ball back close to midfield. That didn't happen. And the Giants did score on the next drive to make it 14-7. They got the 2-point conversion. Saquon Barkley had the touchdown. But you could have easily taken control of that game earlier. And if you had trust in your defense to stop them, then you go for it. And if you don't get it, you trust your defense to stop them at midfield. I mean, it's just the same arguments over and over and over again. You can't punt there. You can't. Because you're taking the ball out of your offense's hands when they're driving the ball down the field, and you're taking the ball out of an offense's hands that doesn't put up a lot of points. So if there's an opportunity to put up points, you can't take the ball out of their hands. You can't do it. So that was frustrating. That was really frustrating. And it's just the fact that you play the field position game. The Giants were the worst team in the National Football League at winning the field position battle this week. They gave Atlanta favorable field position, and then Judge sits there and tells you after the game that, I didn't go for it, and I didn't want to score points because I wanted to play the field position battle. Well, you were really bad at it. And I don't think he knows that. I hope he does. Hope somebody showed him the data. But Joe, you maybe shouldn't have said that, Joe. Maybe shouldn't have said that, because you tried to win the field position battle and you didn't. Sucks. And the thing that's funny is that there was basically the same situation last week against Washington, where there was a 4th and 4 from the Washington 37-yard line. Score was 23-20, or it was 20-20 at the time. And then, one of the best players on the team, Graham Gano, comes out and kicks a field goal. It was 20-20 at the time, made it 23-20. It was almost the same exact situation. So you felt good on the road, kicking a 55-yard field goal to go up 3, but then a 57-yard field goal? You don't think Graham Gano can hit that? And then it's 9-7, and then you have the lead? It's just that they punted. They punted against the Falcons. I would have been fine if they kicked the field goal to go up 9-7, and I would have been fine if they went for it, because I believe they would have got it, because Atlanta's defense is bad. They had the same situation last week, on the road, and they kicked a field goal. Why not trust your kicker? So that's also part of it too. So let's move to the offense and the explosive play report. And, there's some other plays that the Giants made of 15 yards, and they had some run of 10-plus yards. I know Saquon had a run of 15 yards. Great. But there's only one play of 20-plus yards. That's the explosive play report. I'm including all the 10-plus yard runs and the 15-plus yard passing plays, because I think it's good to include just to see what the Giants do and how they're successful. But at the end of the day, explosive plays are 20-plus yards. And there was only one, and it was a C.J. Board. And you have Kenny Golladay on this team. Why? He's only gotten 3 deep ball opportunities, and, a couple of them have been in garbage time. It's like, well, why do we have this guy? I feel like Kenny Golladay, I think, played well on Sunday. Played well. Had some yards after the catch, put his shoulder down, gave a little forearm to an Atlanta defender. That was one of the explosive plays that went for 15-plus yards. Get him involved. It's what do you need me to say that you don't already know? So, lack of explosive plays is just the theme again for this Giants team. And the stat that's most boggling to me about this Giants offense is that they're 6th in the NFL in most yards per drive. They're 5th in the NFL in average time of possession, but they're still 20th in the NFL in points per drive. How? How can you be that bad? How can you be that bad with yards after the catch where there's just none of it? How can you be that bad in week 1 and week 3 with not producing any explosive plays at all? How can you be that bad with no running game, move the ball like an above average offense, and still not score points? How? And they're not turning the ball over. That's the thing. Like, this is a stat where if you were to replace the Giants with the Chiefs, let's just say, for example, because the Chiefs have been committing a lot of turnovers. Some of them Patrick Mahomes' fault, some of them not. There's Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been fumbling the ball left and right. If you were to replace the Giants with the Chiefs in this stat, because the Chiefs have been turning the ball over, I've been like, all right, it's a little surprising the Chiefs are 20th in points per drive, but that doesn't surprise me with how often they turn over the ball. No, it's the Giants. It's Daniel Jones. It's Daniel Jones' arm. It's what it is. He's manipulating the pocket. He's using his legs. Even when he's not getting read options. There's no yards after the catch. There's no Saquon Barkley. It's Daniel Jones. And he's doing this if he still can't score points. It boggles my mind. Boggles my mind. And Daniel Jones is one of the 5 starting quarterbacks in the National Football League right now that have not thrown an interception. Some people on Twitter brought up a great point. I really like the replies. I would rather Daniel Jones throw 2 interceptions this year if it meant that we were producing more explosive plays. But hey, for all the people that still like to get Daniel Jones saying that, oh, he's a turnover machine, blah, 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 well, he hasn't done it. So you can kick rocks and go somewhere else. So let's talk about Saquon Barkley, because Saquon Barkley is a shell of himself, and he's just not a good running back right now. I mean, Saquon Barkley is not a good running back right now. In 2021, Saquon Barkley is averaging 1.8 yards after contact. In 2018 and 2019, he averaged 2.8 yards after contact. It's a whole yard. It's a whole yard of a difference. I mean, Saquon Barkley is averaging, 3.2 yards per carry right now? Or 3.4, excuse me. That extra yard after contact is the difference between 3.4 yards per carry and 4.4 yards per carry. And I understand he's working his way back from an ACL, MCL, whatever, right? But the Giants are 0-3. They drafted him 2nd overall to be the savior of this franchise. Right, wrong, indifferent, that's what they did. And in a passing league, when you rely on a running back to save your offense, you're going to fail. Especially one that can't hit a hole, can't break a tackle. Saquon Barkley only has 2 broken tackles through 3 weeks. In 2019, he had 16. He played in 13 games. It's more than 1 per game. 2018, he averaged more than 1 per game. He had 30 broken tackles in 16 games. That's almost more than 2. It's almost 2 per game. Saquon Barkley can't break tackles. He's not efficient. Can't hit a hole. I'm comparing him right now to Wayne Gallman, which I hate to do. I genuinely do think Saquon Barkley is a better running back than Wayne Gallman. But these advanced metrics, especially the rushing yards over expected per attempt, I have to disagree. Right now, Wayne Gallman is a better running back than Saquon Barkley. And Wayne Gallman didn't suit up for the Falcons. Wayne Gallman didn't even suit up. Wayne Gallman got cut from a football team. And he's a better running back right now than Saquon Barkley. I hope he gets healthy. Hope he gets better. But patience is running out when you're 0-3. Patience runs out for everybody when you're 0-3. And I think that's totally justified. I don't think I'm being an asshole right now. I think it's totally justified to be mad at Saquon Barkley. It's also totally justified to be mad at the organization that picked him and the organization that put him in this spot. That's also very justified. And frankly, I'm more or less mad at the organization than I am mad at Saquon Barkley. So the thing that's most baffling, though, with this Saquon thing is, yeah, he doesn't break tackles. Yeah, the yards after contact isn't there. But the whole thing with Saquon is that with having him in your backfield, he was supposed to have defenses stack the box. So defenses are going to stack the box against Saquon. Defenses are going to stack the box because they want to stop him. Well, Wayne Gallman last year had the box stacked against him with 8+ man defenders in the box 40% of the time. That was second highest in the National Football League. Saquon Barkley, 7.69%. Nice. 7.69% he's facing an 8-man box. That's one of the least in the National Football League. And he's still doing nothing. Still doing nothing. Saquon's got to get better. He has to get better himself. And patience is going to run out. And it's going to suck. No matter what. If he gets better and we're 0-10, and it's like, oh, well, Saquon's picking it back up. He deserves that contract extension. Or it's going to suck when he doesn't perform because we put so much on him. But that's why you shouldn't invest heavily in a running back in a passing league. Because you're almost put in an impossible situation. All right, so that's Saquon. One final note about the offense is Andrew Thomas is good. And I'm showing the pressure rate allowed tweet right now. Andrew Thomas is good. He is a rock. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that Andrew Thomas has been playing much better on that left side in pass pro, and Daniel Jones has been able to manipulate the pocket a lot better. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think Daniel Jones has improved his pocket manipulation. I think that's certainly a thing that has improved for him. But also, Andrew Thomas taking care of his side and taking care of his work, I think it's made Daniel Jones a lot better of a quarterback. And I kind of said that if Andrew Thomas can be a rock, everything else will fall into place. And we're seeing it. We're kind of seeing it. Billy Price isn't great. Bredesen allowed a terrible, terrible sack on Sunday. Will Hernandez is solid. And then Nate Solder's is a disaster. Nate Solder's a disaster. So you have 3 out of your 5 offensive linemen who are bad and / disasters. But Andrew Thomas being the rock is keeping everything afloat. And we knew that would happen. So I'm very happy for Andrew Thomas. Go watch Bobby's old line reports. He does like an Andrew Thomas segment every week. It's great. But I just wanted to add some context of some stats, since a lot of people ask about offensive line stats. There's not really a lot of offensive line data. I could maybe next week look at the running game, the directional running game, but breaking news, it's not good. All right, let's move to the defense. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Joe Judge talks about winning the field position battle. At least over the course of the season, the Giants' opponents have an average starting field position at the 24-yard line. That's the 5th least in the National Football League. So while the Falcons had favorable field position in general over the course of the first 2 weeks, I guess the Giants have won the field position battle, but that just goes to show how stupid that whole talking point is because if you can't score points on offense, it doesn't matter where you start on the field. And if your defense can't stop teams from getting off the field, then starting field position doesn't matter. And the problem is that the Giants have allowed the 7th highest yards per drive in the National Football League. I mean, that's the problem. The 7th highest yards per drive. And that doesn't matter where you start. If you're allowing a lot of yards, then tough. Sorry, you're going to allow points. So the main theme of this defensive stats report is going to be where's the pass rush. And we're going to look at QB hits, sacks, and pressures as the barometer as to looking at how honestly pathetic this pass rush is. So Matt Ryan, this past Sunday, his average time to throw was 2.94 seconds. For a guy to stand in the pocket for almost 3 seconds and his average depth of target be like less than 5 yards, like it was for Matt Ryan, for that to be the case and nobody get home, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. Somebody eventually does have to get home. I am a fan of secondary is priority over pass rush. I am a fan of that. That is how the league works. That is how, in a passing league and an offensive league, that's how it works. In a league where you can't hit the quarterback, you can't hit the quarterback the same as you used to. Like, you can't take anybody to the ground. So the impact of a pass rush is so tough when quarterbacks are getting rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds, like Taylor Heineke did against us in Washington. Like, that was tough for the pass rush to get home. But Teddy Bridgewater, holding onto the ball for 3 seconds, you got to get home. Matt Ryan, holding onto the ball for 3 seconds, got to get home. So there's just no exception around that. And overall this year, quarterbacks have averaged 2.8 seconds time to throw this season. There's some film studies, and Bobby Skinner and I, we had a conversation about play action impacting whether the Giants are getting home quicker or not. Because what play action does is you have to honor play action as a defender for at least a half a second. You have to honor it, regardless of whether the running game is working or not. As a defender, you have to honor play action and the threat of the run possibly coming for a half a second. And the difference between 2.5 seconds and 3 seconds in the National Football League is an eternity. Where 2.5 seconds, I say that a pass rush isn't really expected to get home. Anything after that, the pocket has to be infiltrated. It has to be pushed. The quarterback has to feel something after 2.5 seconds, especially when you get closer to 3 seconds. Like 2.75 seconds, the pocket has to start collapsing. The Giants have too much investment in their interior defensive line for that pocket to not be collapsing, and it has not been. Quarterbacks have, when they're holding onto the ball for 3 seconds, they're standing in there. They could check down, throw it down the field, do whatever they want. And no matter how good of a secondary that you have, if they force the quarterback to hold onto the ball for 3 seconds, I think they did their job, but the pass rush has to get home. Jabril Peppers led the team in QB hits with 2 on Sunday. I mean, why is our safety leading the team in QB hits? Jabril Peppers had 6 pass rush snaps on Sunday. 6! 6, and he had 2 QB hits. You know, there are guys on this team. Austin Johnson had 18 pass rush snaps. Dexter Lawrence had 29 pass rush snaps. 20 pass rush snaps on Sunday for Lorenzo Carter. 20 pass rush snaps on Sunday for Azeez Ojulari. 34 pass rush snaps on Sunday for Leonard Williams. Got his first sack, but it's just there's no consistency here. And the problem with this Giants defense is that just nobody can win. Nobody can win a one-on-one battle. Nobody. Dexter Lawrence, there was one point where Carter was doubled, Ojulari was doubled, Leonard Williams was doubled, and then Dexter Lawrence was one-on-one with Matt Hennessy this past Sunday, and he couldn't infiltrate the pocket. You know, these guys they just can't win, and they're not getting the same amount of pressure as they were last year. There was a less talented edge group. There was no edge presence last year. Not a single one. Even Lorenzo Carter, when he was playing well to start the season, he wasn't putting up tremendous pass rushing numbers. He wasn't. There's nothing. There's nothing. Like this graphic that's on the screen right now, showing all the rankings, the fact that there's secondary players, the fact that Darnay Holmes, Xavier McKinney are even close to, through 3 games, in terms of QB hits and pressures, on this list as to Leonard Williams, Lorenzo Carter, O'Shane Zimenez. Who are you? Who are you? Are you even on this team? So there you go. I mean, it just baffles me. It baffles me that, yeah, you invested what you invested in O'Shane, and the organization felt confident in him. Same thing with Lorenzo Carter. Lorenzo Carter, Patrick Graham was crying over the summer. He was like crying, talking about his rehabilitation process. He's given us nothing. Nada. I'm glad they could play the run. Man, I almost wish that the Giants were worse against the run, so that teams can run the ball more on them, so they just stop throwing the ball. That's what I almost wish, but that's not the case. You know, and overall with this defense, I'm still not feeling great about them, because some of the issues that plagued them against Washington and Denver with allowing yards after the catch, and even though quarterbacks are throwing less, behind the sticks, they're allowing the yards after the catch and they're not swarming to the ball like they used to. Well, in the most important spot of the game last week, I understand the offense didn't score points, but in the most important spot of the game, you allowed a couple big plays with yards after the catch. That's what last week was. That's how they got beat on the drives in which the Giants defense got beat last week. It was allowing yards after the catch and big plays that way. So 4 20-plus yard passing plays in general, and I think 3 of them came in the fourth quarter. 2 of them came on the final drive of the game. So I'm not convinced that this Giants defense is going to turn it around, especially because you consider that there's no pass rush. I know they only allowed some 17 points against Atlanta, and there are certain things that looked better, but the issues that plagued them in weeks 1 and 2 were still kind of hurting them, and they were still kind of present this game. And the Falcons have a terrible offense, and we're not going to be playing terrible offenses kind of from here on out for the next few weeks. All right, that's a stats report video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever. I'm sorry this is really negative, but team's bad. Team's really bad. I'll see you next week. Peace. Go Blue.